Hello viewers, so welcome to my YouTube channel. In this episode today, I'll be telling you about why I personally feel many Africans are returning back to their home country, and by extension, many immigrants that come to Canada seeking greener pasture, they end up going back to their home country because they cannot contend with the situation of things in Canada. That is what I'll be dissecting for you today, so that you can actually make your decision when you want to come into Canada, weigh your option, and make the best decision. So I'm going to stay tuned. I will be back. Alright viewers, so welcome back to my YouTube channel. I still remain my humble self, MC Bernardino. This is Canada Reality, where I dish out content for those that are already in Canada and those that are outside Canada. Is this your first time on this YouTube channel? Please subscribe to this YouTube channel, turn on the notification bell, so that anytime I drop a video, you always be the first to know about it. And likewise, hit on the likes button because it helps the algorithm share a video with more people. And share this video with whoever you feel will benefit from it. So just like I said in the introduction, that I'll be telling you about why I feel many Africans are returning back home after spending 2, 3, 4, 5 years in Canada. They cannot contend with the situation anymore and they are returning back home. Alright, the first one will be because of the high expectation. High unrealistic expectation set. Many people outside Canada, they watch videos, they see so many things about Canada. They feel that everything is green in Canada. Once they come into Canada, they start making money. They can start sending money back home, build houses back home, buy land back home, establish themselves in Canada. But that is far from it. I'm not trying to discourage anybody. I'm just trying to tell you what is tenable, what is obtainable here in Canada, so that it can help you in your decision making. So when people set high hope for themselves that this is what I want to achieve within the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years in Canada, and when that target become unrealizable, they tend to fidget and they become weary, and as a result of that, they look front and back and they just decide to go back home. So this is just letting you know that in Canada, it is not just green. You have to work hard. It's not so easy. There are so many people, they've been in this country 10, 5, 15, 20 years. And because probably of the situation of things, so I don't want to say maybe they're not hardworking. They're just living a balanced life. They do not have excess. So this is just to let you know that when you're coming into Canada, do not really have a high expectation. Don't set a high target for yourself. You can come into Canada. The way Canada is designed, they design it in such a way that you will be okay. So they do not design it for you to be like rich. But it's just for you to be able to fend for yourself, fend for your family, and just be fine. It's a kind of system that is, they take from the rich and they give the poor, just to make sure that they balance the situation. So when people cannot contend with that, maybe because of the kind of lifestyle they are used to back home, they tend to fidget, and as a result of that, they just carry their bag and return home. Another very cogent reason why people return back home, Africans return back home within their first few years of coming to Canada, is when they cannot find a desired job, what they are looking for, the kind of job that they are looking for. When they cannot find it, they tend to want to go back home. You want to agree with me that many of these Africans, many of these immigrants coming all over the world, coming into Canada, some of them are well established, they are doing very well. We have doctors, we have lawyers, we have managers. They are well to do, they are doing very well. Some of them only took the decision to come to Canada because of their kids, because they want their kids to have the best of education and the best in life. That's why they chose to come to Canada. So when people like that resign their jobs and come to Canada, just because they feel that when they get to Canada, they will get a better job and they can continue as a doctor or a lawyer, as the case is. When they come into Canada, I know of lawyers, doctors, when they come into Canada, Canada do not respect that credential that you are bringing from outside Canada. They have their own standard that they want you to fit into. So as a medical doctor, you can end up going to school again, writing some professional exams, and it might take you another 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It depends on how fast you can do that. So it's not everybody that has that patience to actually go through that process. I know some few people that actually did that, but it's not everybody that is tolerant enough to actually go through that process again, because you want to agree with me that majority of these people, the last time they studied was like 15, 20 years ago. So for them now to start all over again and start studying again for one exam or the other, just because they want to practice to be a doctor or a lawyer here, some of them would rather just give it up and just settle for things like driving Uber or doing many jobs. So when they do that for some few years, few months, and they cannot contend with that anymore, they would rather just carry their bag and say, okay, I will just go back home and continue to practice as a doctor, as a lawyer, whatever, as a manager in a bank, than for me to continue to suffer myself in Canada. So some of them go to the extent of just leaving their kids and their partner here and return back home because they cannot contend with the situation of things in Canada. Another very strong reason why Africans always return back home when they cannot cope again in Canada is because of the strong weather. I mean, in Canada, out of the 12 months that we have, I can tell you of a truth. It's a known fact that almost 7 or 8 months of it, if I'm not exaggerating, is cold. So if it is cold and coming from Africa where it's very hot, and you come to Canada and it is very, very cold, you cannot contend with it. I mean, the degrees Celsius could go as high as 60 degrees Celsius in some provinces. So people cannot contend with that. I mean, change of weather, it doesn't go down well with their body, and because of their health issues too, they cannot tolerate that. And as a result of that, during the first few months of coming to Canada, they're already thinking of going back home. In addition to this, the snow that we witnessed in Canada is something not to write home about. In Nova Scotia 2 weeks ago, they witnessed 70 feet snow. It was huge. Everything was shut down. In Ontario, we also witnessed, virtually all provinces witness snow. So, and when you are in Canada, I mean, for your first year in Canada, and you are seeing all those things, it get discouraging because you are not used to that. And if you have health issues, you cannot contend because of your health issues, then it becomes a problem for you. So that's why some people, when they feel that they cannot contend with that cold, they cannot contend with that snow anymore, they would rather just go back home and continue to live their life JJ instead of staying in Canada. Another very important reason why I feel many Africans are returning back home is because of the financial difficulty. I mean, it's a global phenomenon now, presently now, that there's inflation all over the world. It's not just Canada alone. But in Canada, we hear them also because it's huge cost of living expenses. The salaries are not increased. But when you want to go to the store to go do grocery, you spend huge money. When you do transportation, it's huge. Accommodation, everything is huge. So when people, maybe because of the kind of lifestyle they are used to back home, and because maybe apart from their salary back home, they have some side gig, some businesses that they do that they make money from. Some of them are not coming because of the money to Canada. They're just coming because they want their children to be established. But they make a lot of money back home. Some people even work in oil company back home. I know some friends of mine that work in oil company in Nigeria making cool cash. But just because of unity of family, they decided to come to Canada. So when people like that come into Canada and begin to struggle financially, maybe they could not land the kind of job they want, or after getting the job they want, they get laid off and they begin to struggle in terms of finance, then people like that begin to look at their option and start saying, okay, maybe the spouse should go back home and continue, even if he or she has not resigned from that lucrative job back home. He or she should go back and leave the remaining people here. I mean, I know people that make that decision, but that's another very strong reason. The financial difficulty people face in Canada is another very strong reason why some Africans rather, are going back home to seek solace back home instead of staying in Canada and continue to struggle financially. Next on the reason why people are leaving Canada, Africans are leaving Canada, is because of cultural diversity and racism. Cultural diversity in the sense that Canada is a multicultural country. Ontario especially, there are different people from different ethnicity, different country in Ontario, and also by extension in Canada. So some Africans that are not used to this kind of cultural diversity, when they come into Canada and begin to see that they have to learn other people's culture, the way they do, the way they eat, the way they relate and stuff like that, it becomes a culture shock for them, and they cannot contend with that. And as a result of that, when they see that they are struggling, they begin to look at the options that are available for them, either to go back home or stay put. In addition to this, not helping matters will be racism. If I tell you that there's no racism in Canada, I'm just trying to deceive you. It might not be in your face, but there's an undertone of racism in Canada. So some blacks, they struggle with this racism. Some of us, we've developed a thick skin to it, but some people cannot contend with whites racializing them at workplace, at home, in place of worship, various places. They cannot contend with it. And when they've had enough of it, they just take their bag and say, come on, cultural discrimination, cultural diversity, racism, I can't contend with it. I would rather just go back home and be a king in my fatherland. Another reason why people cannot contend within their first, in fact, this one happens within their first year, is when they become homesick. And so when I say homesick, Canada can be very boring. To tell you the truth, I've had cases of people thinking of being suicidal because it can be very boring. It can be very boring. You can just be by yourself. You can be homesick. So within your first 1 or 2 years in Canada, I mean, you start thinking about your family. Some people, I mean, I'm telling you of the truth, some people cannot contend with it anymore. Within 1 year, they miss their family so much, and they just discard everything in Canada and just go back home. Some people, it could be because they are developing some medical issues. And in Canada, you might want to say that if you're a permanent resident in Canada or a citizen in Canada, medical is free. But it is free, but drugs prescription, it's huge. You have to pay out of your pocket. And if you don't have a job that's ready to pay that for you, you have to pay huge money just to get, depending on the kind of drug that you're looking for. So that becomes a very big deal for people when they begin to cope. I mean, financially, you are not coping already, and medical bill is increasing. As a result of that, I mean, you add 1 plus 1. If you feel the best option for you, you can't cope with that medical expenses, you can't cope with that loneliness, suicide is setting in, you just take your bag and go back home. So people are taking decisions because of this, or maybe because you have family member back home that you feel you want to take care of. I know this Iranian friend of mine that I think his parents are struggling back home in terms of medical, they need medical attention. He had to rent out his house and go back home. He's been back home now for the last 1.5 years now, taking care of his parents. So people take different reasons, have different reasons of living Canada, and this could be one of them. I already told you about huge rent or mortgage as the case is. Because of the inflation, it's very huge, and that's one of the reasons why Canada government, IRCC, placed a cap on international students that are coming into to colleges because of housing needs. So it's not just international students that are being affected, even other people that live in Canada, permanent resident citizens, those that are renting are paying huge money, which does not commiserate with the accommodation they are living in, and also paying huge mortgage too for those that own a house. So some people cannot cope with this. I mean, just like I said earlier on, that salaries are not increasing commensurate to the rate of inflation, and likewise, people are paying through their nose for their grocery. In addition to that, the housing bill, it's driving people crazy, and people feel that, oh, I have a house back home, my father has a property, my mom has a property, I'd rather just go back there and be living my modest life than continue to struggle in Canada just because I want to fit into the society. So some people just go back home because of that and feel that, okay, let me just go and spend some few years back home and see if things get better, I will come back. I knew of this Indian guy that left Canada just to go back home to his parents' farmland, and is now doing farming in Punjab in India. So people have different reasons, and this is one of the reasons why I feel some Africans are living here. Maybe because their father is wealthy, maybe because they have wealthy parents. They feel that I would rather just go back home and be a king in my homeland than to continue to struggle in Canada. Okay, viewers, I've mentioned some few reasons why I feel Africans are going back home, immigrants are going back home. If you feel there's anything I've missed out, feel free to drop it in the comment section. And if you feel you need further clarification in order for you to make your decision before coming into Canada, let me know in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, please do not waste time, smash on the likes button, and also please subscribe to this YouTube channel, turn on the notification bell so that anytime I drop a video, you always be among the first to get it. Till I come back to you again, you know I'm just a YouTuber, I do not know much. See you in my next video. Peace out.